Welcome to ACC Network Basketball presented by T. Rowe Price. From Cameron Indoor Stadium, number 5 Duke, winners of 5 straight, taking on George Mason out of the A-10. Hi again, everybody. Matt Schumacher alongside the Hall of Famer Dan Bonner with you. Happy holidays. This is not your average mid-major versus top 5 team, and George Mason and Duke don't sleep on the Patriots. Arguably the best non-power conference team Duke is going to play this year.
Yeah, that's true. They're both very, very good defensive team, and Mason has some guys who can put points on the board. That makes them dangerous.
For Duke, dangerous at almost every position. They can start more than 5 players. Certainly Kaman Malawach coming off his best performance of the year.
Well, Malawach does just a couple of things, but he does them very well. He takes and he dunks the ball. He doesn't dribble very much. Maybe that's only the second or third time he's dribbled the ball to the basket all year, but he dunks the ball, he gets offensive rebounds, he blocks shots, he runs very well, and he's going to get better as the season goes on. He's a very interesting player.
Meanwhile, on the other side for George Mason, 4 power conference transfers led by Darius Maddox.
And not just any power conference transfers. You can see Maddox was on the ACC All-Tournament team at Virginia Tech back in 2022, and he's one of the country's best shooters. He needs to have a big game tonight.
Has played in this building before, back in 2022. Malawach coming off that 17-point performance against Incarnate Word, a career high. Duke has been off for the last week, so has George Mason.
Which is a different kind of thing. These teams, they play so many games now, they don't get a chance to be off and to actually practice.
Terry Oglesby, Byron Jarrett, Isaac Barnett are officials, and George Mason wins the tip in the road greens.
George Mason likes to attack the basket, get it inside.
Jalen Haynes gets it inside, coming off back-to-back double-doubles. And the rebound tapped around back to the Blue Devils.
George Mason with some pressure. They'll play mostly man-to-man, and they like to get after you.
It is a Duke starting 5 with 3 potential NBA lottery picks in the 2025 NBA draft, all 3 freshmen. Proctor, the lob, and a foul against Woody Newton.
Well, that's one way to defend that play. It's illegal, but that's one way to do it. That's really a great job by Duke moving the basketball. You get so much movement, you get a couple of screens, and now the defense is just out of position and flagged. He does so many things so well.
4 double-doubles already this year for the 17-year-old. What stands out to you about him most?
Well, he can do everything. And I mean, not only that, he's a good rebounder, he's a good defensive player. It's not just his offensive game.
There's Tyrese Proctor with 10, trying to force it into Malawach, and another quick foul, that time on the second-year ETSU transfer Jalen Haynes. John Shire told us, what scares me about George Mason is that they're not your typical quote-unquote mid-major team. The A-10 this year has been really good. We have to be sharp from the jump tonight. How about a 3 from Flag to start?
And it's got to concern Tony Skinn and George Mason just a little bit that his team has picked up fouls early.
Told us he wanted to be physical but not foul.
And you notice on that jump shot, George Mason dropping back on defense, not sending people to the offensive boards.
Flag, extra pass. Knipple a 3. And the rebound, Braden O'Connor, one of a number of newcomers for this George Mason team. And yet, even with all the new faces, a very experienced and veteran-laden group.
They need to be able to get the ball inside to Haynes to have the most impact.
Haynes fighting for the rebound. Last touched it back to the Blue Devils.
Now O'Connor for George Mason is really good at coming off that screen and pulling up and shooting the jump shot. He just missed that one. The last thing you want to do if you're George Mason is to come in here and get off to a slow start.
They have won 5 in a row, coming off a win against Tulane in which O'Connor had 17. And it'll go back to George Mason.
And Matt, I think another thing that's going to be important in this game is transition. Which team can create transition? You have to be careful you don't turn the ball over. Obviously, it's easier to go down and score when the other team doesn't have their defense set.
There's Darius Maddox, their leading scorer. O'Connor had it jarred loose, 10 on the timer. And picked off by Sion James. To a trailing Proctor. Bang from downtown.
And that's almost like in the script. You turn it over here, and Duke is going to go down and make you pay.
O'Connor coughs it up. Back-to-back turnovers. Flag off the drive. Over 3 minutes to start the game without a basket for George Mason. Zach Anderson out to Maddox. And their leading scorer stops the scoreless drought and puts George Mason on the board.
Now, Maddox can put some points on the board, and even though he's a pretty good three-point shooter, I think what you saw right there is the best part of his game.
Maddox off the bounce. Tough floater, left it short. Numbers for Duke.
The pull-up jumper, yes. Floater, not so much.
Flag for 3. And a timeout by George Mason. Hot start for Duke. They lead it early at Cameron Indoor. ACC men's basketball is presented by T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. Second-year head coach Tony Skinn returning to his alma mater, where he helped lead George Mason to the Final Four between 2003 and 2006. Helped them to a 20-win season last year. This year brings in 10 newcomers. Dan, picked in the middle of the pack of a very good A-10 team. Feels like there's more to be done still in year 2.
Certainly Tony Skinn would tell you that, but this is a George Mason program. I mean, that was a tremendous Final Four run. But if that was going to occur today with the way we measure things, they didn't win the conference tournament. I don't know that they get in.
Haynes is sent away by Cooper Flag. He wanted a goaltend, but they are not going to give it to him.
That's a really good defensive play by Flag. He just waits on him, and that ball looked like it was still going up. But Haynes had a mismatch inside, and he's trying to use it. And when Haynes gets the ball in there, he's backing it down. He's not usually passing it. And Flag did a great job just anticipating.
By the way, Flag's last deep shot going to break counted as a 2, not a 3. That makes it 8-2 Duke. That defensive play just shows you the length that this Duke team has defensively. Haynes had it jarred loose by Flag. It'll stay here with 3 on the shot clock.
Haynes is a guy, when he gets it outside, he likes to dribble it to the basket, and Duke so far has done a nice job sort of harassing that dribble.
Got to get it up quickly if you're the Patriots. Billups. Tough shot, won't go.
And tough shot is exactly the right term, Matt, and those are the kind of shots that George Mason has been getting.
Just 1 for 6 to start. Brown, the kick to the corner. Good to see Malik Brown back in the lineup after he missed their last game with a toe injury. Haynes finally on the board.
A flag fell down on the other end of the court, so they had a transition opportunity, and the Patriots took advantage of it. Got to get some easy baskets against Duke. We talked before the game about what a good defensive team George Mason is. Well, Duke is even better.
Duke among the best 2 defensive teams in the country, according to KenPom, on any given week, as Proctor is long and the rebound hauled in by Darius Maddox. Here's the Auburn transfer, Katie Johnson. Anderson a 3.
And that's what Anderson does. He is a three-point specialist.
Flag left hand won't go. Fights to keep it alive, and a fresh 20. Foster probing. Rebound Brown. 3rd opportunity on this trip. Flag. Draws a foul. That is just effort by the 17-year-old freshman.
One of the things you have to do as a defensive team is you really have to get that first rebound, because if you don't get the first rebound, lots of times you're out of position trying to get another one if the second shot is missed. But I mean, what great balance. He's able to shoot the ball. He's the first guy down and the first guy back up.
Well, you talked about it, Dan. Giving Duke extra possessions in this game for George Mason, not a recipe for success. Here's another one back by Flag. 3rd opportunity jarred loose, but it will stay here.
You know, George Mason's really going to have to consider finding Flag and blocking him out.
That'd be your advice to the Patriots?
Yes. Yeah, it shows the depth of my insight about this particular game.
That's why you're a Hall of Famer. Flag from downtown. Duke has missed their last 9 field goal attempts.
They had 4 opportunities.
Leading by 4 here early, nearly midway through the first frame.
Now they got another big guy, Emejuru, inside, do the Patriots.
Just checked into the game. 5 to shoot here for Katie Johnson. And another one-and-done trip down the floor.
And another tough shot at the end of the clock.
Foster on the drive. Finds it in the corner. Emejuru fighting for the rebound, and now here come the Patriots.
And if Malik Brown is anywhere in the neighborhood, you're going to have to fight for that rebound.
Excellent acquisition for Duke in the offseason. Malik Brown coming over from Syracuse. Billups hounded by Evans, stuck on the baseline. Up and under, and Darius Maddox showing why he was once an ACC All-Tournament team selection.
That was great patience. Nobody panicked. And that's what George Mason wants to do. That's what they have to do, is get the ball and take it toward the basket.
These teams have a combined 6 made field goals. Neither shooting it efficiently.
We talked about the fact that George Mason gets to the free throw line a lot, and one of the reasons that they do is that they attack the basket, and this is just a really good job by Billups inside to not panic, and by his teammates to cut to the basket and give him some place to throw the ball.
10 on the timer here for Duke. Mismatch, Flag defended by Woody Newton. Flag, another offensive rebound. James, a deep 3. Got it.
Flag is just out fighting George Mason on the inside.
He already has 6 rebounds, not even 10 minutes into the game. O'Connor. Kick out. Billups. Emejuru. Sort of a helter-skelter sequence there for George Mason. Meanwhile, on the other side for Duke, The second chance opportunities presented by Cooper Flagg being paid off from downtown. Up 5. Up 5, but shooting just 22%. Slow starts have been a bit of a theme for Jon Scheyer's team this year, and yet in all 3 of those games they came back to take the lead at some point, winning, of course, the Auburn game and the game at Louisville.
And I think Jon Scheyer had a very interesting perspective on it. He said you can't talk about that too much because then it gets in everybody's head. You just have to go out and play. But again, I keep trying to stress to people, it's the 17th of December. Coaches still are allowed time to put their teams together, and Duke's issues have really been on the offensive end, and they're still putting that together a little bit.
How much do you attribute maybe tonight's quote-unquote slow start to being off for a week for the first time since the year started?
Well, I think being off for a week is a good thing. You get to practice, you maybe get to rest a little bit, you get to work on some things. So, no, I don't think there's rust. How can you have rust? You know, if you were off for a month, yeah. That's Duke's second turnover, but each time they've turned it over, it has not resulted in a fast break opportunity for George Mason. So George Mason playing both of their big guys at the same time. Haynes has to try to get himself down inside. He's got a big advantage over Gillis.
Goes right at the Purdue transfer and lays it in off the window.
And that's what we said. That's what he likes to do. If he's not outside and he has the ball, he'll dribble the ball inside. Duke didn't come and double team him that time. They've been able to knock it away from him a couple times earlier.
Here's Gillis. It's a 3.
Now Gillis, there's a mismatch. If Haynes is trying to guard him outside, Gillis is going to get some open opportunities. Gillis has not shot the 3 as well as Duke anticipated. Certainly not as well as he did last year, but again, it's still early.
Shot 46% en route to being the Big Ten's 6th man of the year last year. That 3 by Gillis, Duke's 4th of the half. O'Connor, tough shot again, forced by the length of Malawach.
That's O'Connor's shot, but you don't have to often shoot it over somebody the size of Malawach.
7'2", 250. Malawach with a longer wingspan than his height. And a foul off the ball against O'Connor. That is the 4th on George Mason.
Duke still hasn't committed a foul. And this is a George Mason team that gets almost a quarter of their points from the free throw line, and it's hard to get to the free throw line if you don't get fouled.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
Tyrese Proctor having an excellent start to his season, finds Gillis. And the rebound corralled by Emejuru.
Now you can be fairly confident that when Gillis gets it out there, he's going to pull the trigger. So you don't really have to worry if you're Haynes very much about him driving past you.
Here's Maddox. 2 for 4 to start his night. Back out to Haynes.
That's not necessarily a really good idea. He's now 0 for 7 shooting threes this year.
Well, Saturday, men's basketball right here on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. Cooper Flagg back at it again with number 5 Duke taking on Georgia Tech, noon Eastern. And in our primetime West Coast matchup, Cal squares off with number 23 San Diego State.
And that Cal-San Diego State game is another one of those important non-conference games for the ACC.
Which you talked about on Packers Show just before we tipped off. Across the board, the ACC missing a few of those early marquee non-conference wins.
Well, the ACC, the problem for the ACC is they played the SEC a lot. And the SEC has decimated.
It's been a problem for anybody that's played the SEC.
They've decimated everybody. So the ACC's record against the Big East, the Big Ten, and the Big 12 isn't that bad. But against the SEC, it's dreadful. But again, everybody's record against the SEC is dreadful. But the problem is you set the standard in November and December, and then it's hard for teams to recover.
Kneppel goes right around O'Connor.
Kneppel's got such good size, and he just plays under control.
His first points of the night. Duke up 8. Maddox 3 with Flagg on his heels.
Literally.
And 3 shots coming for the Virginia Tech transfer.
I don't know that I've ever seen a foul committed in quite that manner.
And the first of the night for Duke. There you have it. 12 minutes into the game.
Flagg basically falls down and he's trying to catch his balance, and he hits him on the heels while he's shooting a 3.
That is the least amount of contact you're going to see on a foul called probably all year.
Well, but it's the perfect place to make very little contact. It's hard for a guy to shoot the ball when somebody is literally hanging on his heels.
And so the first trip to the foul line tonight for George Mason.
And this guy pointed out earlier, he's an outstanding free-throw shooter.
And so is the team.
Yes.
And they get there often. Top 20 in the country in free throw attempts per game.
As I said, literally they scored 24% of their total points from the free throw line.
7 points for Maddox to lead all scorers in tonight's game.
So for as seemingly that they've struggled a little bit, George Mason is still in the game.
Proctor curling, blows by and lays it in.
That's just great movement. Movement of the ball, movement of people. That's hard to guard.
O'Connor had it picked off. Here comes Malik Brown. Gillis hounded and lays it in with the left hand.
Gillis and Flagg both hustled down the court, and if they don't do it, that's a turnover because Brown lost his footing.
7 Duke points off 4 George Mason turnovers. And there is the second foul on Duke. Blue Devils scoring on back-to-back trips down the floor and getting some points from Tyrese Proctor in the midst of his best season so far in a Duke uniform.
Gator.
To build a 9-point lead, and their defense has had a lot to do it, particularly with Malik Brown. He does a great job getting in the passing lane. He dribbles it behind his back, and everything goes really well until he falls down, but Mason Gillis bails him out there. And Brown is such a defensive presence. You know, you look at his demeanor, and it's like he's just sort of gliding through things, but he plays hard. Look at that. In the past, when he was at Syracuse, he used to go to shoot-arounds and talk to opponents, and they said, we've told our guys, you got to watch out for Brown anytime he's around. So he is a real force on the defensive end.
Jon Scheyer said he's got the best hands of any player he's ever coached, which is pretty high praise considering the guys that have come through these walls.
Considering where Jon Scheyer is coached.
5 to shoot for Haynes. Had it jarred loose, forces a tough shot, and it's off the mark. Good defense by Tyrese Proctor.
Good defense by Proctor to not let him by, and then at the last second, Flagg came over, forced him into a quick shot.
Flagg using his size. No, Brown mistimed the jump, but it was last touched by George Mason. It'll stay here.
Brown mistimed the jump, but he's in there in perfect offensive rebounding position, and Duke is just wearing George Mason out on the offensive boards.
Already +6 in that category. against the George Mason team that has struggled giving up offensive rebounds this year. Knipple left open. There's Brown again, winning position and drawing a foul, the 5th on George Mason.
Well, Emejuru was out of position and he grabbed Brown. Brown is, I mean, he moves so well. He's a very fluid player.
Flag puts his head down, left it off the front end.
Well, he doesn't usually miss shots like that, even though it's in traffic. Now again, that's not going to count for anything. That's not going to be any stat except for the deflection. But that is a pass that's going right inside for an easy layup, and Malik Brown kicks it out of bounds.
Hey, X in the 54. X in the 54.
Maybe he's got the best feet on the team too, not just hands.
Well, defensive feet.
Johnson picked up by Flag. Maddox off the screen.
But that's a shot that has to go down.
Oh, and Dan, they're now 4 of 18 from the floor, 0 from downtown. How does George Mason get some rhythm here offensively? They haven't scored in over 2 minutes.
Well, most of the time when you're struggling like that, you try to create your rhythm on the defensive end, where you get some steals, you create some turnovers, and you get easier baskets. Their problem is they've played against the set Duke defense for most of the night, and the set Duke defense is awfully good.
Five to shoot for Foster. Right into the teeth of the defense, and it was last touched by Emejuru with his heel on the baseline, so it'll go back to Duke.
Well, Emejuru is having a really tough time tonight. It looked like he's been off balance many times. That's a rebound that he needs to get.
Corrals that rebound. Now George Mason on the run.
Well, that's great defense out there. Foster and Evans together prevented an easy pass inside.
Oh, Maddox almost walked. Johnson a deep three. Oh, he banks it in. The first 3 of the half for George Mason. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
That was sort of a desperation kind of shot. But all that said, they're within 6 points.
It has been a disjointed first half, to say the least, on both ends.
Tony Skinn telling his guys to slow down.
Here's Newton off the bounce, goes right at Flag and makes it a 4-point game.
And that's Newton's game. Newton likes to take the ball to the basket, and that's what George Mason wants to do, attack the basket. We talked about George Mason, how good they were defensively, and you've seen it these last couple of possessions.
Duke on a 3.5-minute scoring drought. Can the Patriots take advantage? Emejuru had it jarred loose by Brown, and it'll stay here with 6 on the shot clock. Well, George Mason getting a lucky deep shot. Bank still open late in Durham. And they make it a 4-point game on this drive by Woody Newton.
Thanks.
Welcome back to ACC Network Basketball, presented by T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence. What do you think's being said there between two Duke legends, Coach K and Shane Battier?
I don't know, but the thing that impresses me is none of Coach K's grandkids are there, so how does he know how to use that phone?
Maybe he could give you some pointers after the game.
Somebody's got to give me some pointers. But he and I are of an age, and so I'm very impressed that he's able to get Shane Battier to laugh by showing him things on his phone.
4-point game. George Mason has somehow stayed in it while shooting just 6 of 20 from the floor. They got to go quickly here. 3 on the timer. And they don't realize it. And they're not going to get the shot off. That's coming out of a break. And yet George Mason unaware of the shot clock situation. Their 5th turnover.
I guarantee you all the coaches are aware of it, but what the coaches tell the players to do and what the players do are often two vastly different things.
Are you speaking from experience?
Yes.
On both sides, I presume.
Yes.
Flag takes flight and draws a foul on Haynes. He is pointing at the restricted circle, saying he was set. That is the 2nd foul on Haynes.
In today's college basketball world, with the rules being what they are, he was not set before that last foot planted prior to the jump. And that's the rule. He's still moving. He gets set before flag leaves the floor, but that's not the rule anymore.
Yeah, the restricted area is really inconsequential when you've got a player taking flight. He was not set before the final foot planted for flag, and thus the freshman at the line for 2 shots.
When you're looking at whether there's legal guarding position, and that's what you have to have for there to be a charge call, the legal guarding position on an airborne player, and that was flag, excuse me, Cooper. Cooper Kupp, on my mind is bad.
It's on football.
It is on football, but he's on my fantasy football team and he was terrible. But anyhow, Cooper Flag is an airborne player, and so he had not planted that last foot. The guy has to be in position before he plants the last foot, and he wasn't. See, Cooper Kupp's got me all discombobulated.
Lead back to 6 for Duke, despite not making a field goal in the last 4 minutes and counting. And again, late in the shot clock. Billups, long, Knipple diving for the rebound, but traveled in the process. Gotta love that effort, though, from the freshman. 4th turnover on Duke.
And sometimes, Matt, as Knipple he has the ball, you can't go sliding along the floor. But sometimes it's not a matter of what kind of shots you give up defensively, but who you're giving up those shots to. That was a 3, a wide open 3 by Billups, but he hadn't made a 3 all year. This is a guy, O'Connor, that George Mason's got to get going.
Just 0 for 2 to start this game, and dribbled it off his foot. 6th Patriot turnover, gives it back to Duke.
Now you talk about the versatility of Duke. There's O'Connor. He is basically the starting point guard, and he's being defended by Knipple, who's like 6'7".
Mason Gillis, kick out, Sion James. Back inside to Gillis. Heady play underneath, draws a foul, and back to the free throw line go the Blue Devils.
You mentioned Gillis is a veteran guy, and so you expect your veteran guys to make heady plays. Sees the defense coming, he gets them right in the air. Billups is a great defender. He's looking to block the shot, and Gillis just fakes him off his feet.
Blue Devils in the bonus the rest of the first half. Well, Gillis was a really interesting portal pickup for Duke, a guy that played 4 years at Purdue, was vital in their success to the NCAA championship game a season ago. And with all the freshmen on this Duke team, how important is it to have a guy of his experience level, particularly at the highest level of college basketball?
I don't know that you can quantify it. It's just very important to have somebody to tell the younger players, no, this is what we need to do. But basically, it's their work habits more than anything else that the younger players can emulate.
Final 2.5 minutes of the first half. Duke on top 23-16. That is erased by Malowacz.
That's a very optimistic drive right there, trying to get it over Malowacz.
James left open. Good rebound by Anderson, draws a foul on Knipple. Just his first and the third on Duke.
But I think this is a critical last 2 minutes of this half for George Mason. Somehow they've been able to stay in the game, but anytime you're in this building, how many games have you seen in this building where Duke goes on some 5-0 run right before the end of the half and suddenly you're out of the game?
Johnson a three. One and done trip again for George Mason. Jon Scheyer calling for his team to slow it down a little bit here with less than 2 minutes to go. Floated inside to Malawach. Left hand, no, put back off the mark, but the foul was there on George Mason. And it's number 2 on Emejuru.
Well, the only thing that was weird about that is Malawach actually dribbled the ball. What a nice job moving with that left hand. And again, how many times have you said put back? The Duke is just wearing them out on the offensive boards.
10 offensive rebounds for the Blue Devils in the first half. Well, we've got SMU and Clemson covered on the ACC Network for their college football playoff first round games. All starts Friday 4 Eastern with our special ACC PM preview show, and continues Saturday before and after the games.
Boy, Gillis almost had that on a free throw, and Malawach is a very good free throw shooter, missed both of them.
Now KD Johnson saying the ball's a little bit slippery here. And Byron Jarrett's going to wipe it off with the towel.
That was interesting.
Never seen that before. Middle of the play. And they're going to honor it. Make sure that thing is dried up for the final 90 seconds. And again, Dan, another
drying the heck out of it.
Another big opportunity here for George Mason. Second opportunity for Duke, results in no points. Still right in front of the Patriots.
What we've seen is their defense has kept them in the game. And that's what your defense can do. Your defense can keep you in the game. But eventually, you have to put the ball in the basket. And George Mason hadn't done that very effectively.
Patriots defense top 25 in the nation in a host of categories, including scoring. We are seeing that on display tonight in the first half. Johnson inside to Emejuru. Maddox a three. Great rebound effort by Billups, and keeps it here.
I'm really impressed with the way Duke is attacking these shooters on the perimeter. They went after Anderson. Anderson, for George Mason, an excellent three-point shooter. Doesn't really drive it very much, so they run at him, force him to give up the ball. And Maddox has not shot the three very well this year so far, so he's a better guy to be shooting the three. Again,
KD Johnson, right place, right time, rims it out. Anderson wins it back for GMU. Less than a minute to go in the opening half. Johnson gives it up to Billups, and it will stay here.
Duke has done a great job of pressure on the ball.
Scheyer looking up at the Jumbotron. What is left of the Duke students after finals didn't like that call, but nonetheless it'll stay here. And some love for Jared Billups. Haynes spin cycle and draws a foul on Malawach. And Haynes is slow to get up.
Just trips and falls. I mean, I guess he's got his feet tangled up a little bit, but that's what Haynes is looking to do, is take the ball. He can score inside with either hand, but he likes to get that left-handed dribble going and then spin to the basket.
There he goes to the basket with a left hand off the side of the backboard. Anderson trying to rip it away. Duke basketball.
Again, Malawatch is 7'2" with really long arms. It's hard to get the ball up over him, and at some point you have to understand that.
Knipple. Into the chest of Anderson, puts it in. Shot clock turned off for George Mason. Final 10 seconds of the first half. Johnson a fadeaway. Rebound Knipple. 3 seconds. Knipple. George Mason goes into the halftime locker room on a 4.5-minute scoring drought. They had their opportunities. Credit to Duke defensively shutting down the Patriots. They lead it 25-16 at the half in Cameron Indoor. Interesting first half, to say the least. We'll send you to studio with Taylor right now. Welcome back to ACC Network Basketball, brought to you by T. Rowe Price. Lowest scoring half of the season for both teams. Duke leads it 25-16 at the break. Matt Schumacher, the Hall of Famer, Dan Bonner with you. I'm not sure we can spin it, Dan, but a competitive game at least. And if you're George Mason, you end the first half on a 4.5-minute scoring drought. You're only down 9.
Well, keep in mind, we said before the game, and it's absolutely true, these are two really good defensive teams. Now, the shooting hasn't been very good. You have to admit that.
To say the
least. I think the defense has something to do with it. Duke in particular has been good on the defensive end.
Held George Mason to 2 of 14 to end the half. And take me through the conversation for both coaches at halftime. I mean, where do you go after what we saw in the first half?
I think for both coaches on the offensive end, and that's where the problems are, not on the defensive end. Look at these numbers here. And Duke has gotten some open three-point baskets. The Blue Devils, I think if they're going to be successful, obviously they have to shoot the three better than that. But you get better, you score more points when you run better offense, and you run better offense, you get easier.
And Haynes looks at his head coach, Tony Skinn, and says, my bad, I should have passed it. Nonetheless, a Duke foul.
Well, the fact that James never got his feet set at all. You have to have both feet on the floor facing the dribbler, and he never did that. And that collision, and you can understand James sort of turning to try to minimize the blow, but if that blow is in James's chest, then that's a charge.
Against 6'8", 265, and he left it off the front end. Behind the play, numbers for the Blue Devils.
And that's how you shoot 20%. You take tough shots. And there's Knipple. That's just a great play.
6 points now for the freshman. George Mason hit just 1 3 in the first half. They were 1 for 9. Well off their mark during this 5-game win streak in which they've shot it better than 40% 3 times. Another tough shot by Haynes. 5 to shoot. O'Connor. Foul line pull-up, that's his game, and he knocks it in.
He's really good at that. And one thing that Malawatch is doing a great job of, he's not letting Haynes go back to that left hand. Haynes can shoot it with his right, but that's a much more difficult shot.
Flag had 7 first half points, goes right to the tin, and draws a foul.
Well, O'Connor with that left-hand dribble, and that's after an offensive rebound, and Cupp is out there trying to prevent him from shooting the three, but that's O'Connor's game. He's really good off the dribble in the mid-range. Cooper Flag. Okay, I'm not going to say Cooper anymore. I'm going to say Flag. I'm done.
How's your fantasy team doing this year with Cooper Kupp?
Very poorly.
Well, this Cooper's been pretty good this year.
Boy, he sure has. The one thing that impresses me about Flagg, among many other things, he does such a great job maintaining his pivot foot. He takes long strides, but when he stops, he maintains that pivot foot. I mean, just very skilled in very interesting areas. All right, now this is a danger zone for George Mason.
Duke showing some pressure. Maddox, 3-ball. And the woes from deep continue for George Mason, now 1 for 10.
I mean, Kupp is 6'9". You're trying to shoot a 3 over him. Good luck.
And now a mismatch in the post on Newton. And Flagg takes advantage. Double digits for Cooper Flagg and the largest lead of the game for Duke.
Flagg has that much time that close to the basket. He's going to score 90% of the time.
Inside to Haynes. Newton. Haynes put back, sent away, and it's going back to the Blue Devils.
Flagg handles the ball so well. He gets you in positions where you have a mismatch. And again, he's 6'9", and he's just able to back down in against Newton. And again, unless you're going to come to double team him, he's really good with that turnaround jump shot.
Back to Flagg, and he is taking over with 13. 6-0 Duke run. Well, John Shire told us they haven't done a lot to increase the complexity of the offense, but what they have done is increase certain actions to get more out of Cooper Flagg. Maybe we're seeing that here to start the second half.
Flagg, I mean, he handled the ball a lot in the first half. He was 2 for 11 shooting.
That's
so
a good
it's not
point.
like he didn't get his shots. But here in the second half early, it just looks like he's gotten better shots and he's been able to convert.
O'Connor drawing a double team. Finds Haynes. George Mason shooting less than 20% from the floor. Flagg waiting for Sion James to get back into the picture. And now the two-lane transfer with the basketball. Flagg extra pass. Proctor puts in a 3. Timeout George Mason. Cooper Flagg in his bag to start the second half. Leads all scorers with 13 and has Duke on a 9-0 run. Come back to Cameron Indoor, where Duke is on a 16-2 run over the last 8 minutes, in large part because of Cooper Flagg.
Well, and the other fact is Flagg has played very well, but Duke's made 4 out of their 5 shots. Here's Flagg, 2 for 11 in the first half, 2 for 2 in this half. The score was 20-16 with 4 minutes and 30 seconds left in the first half. And we talked about how Duke can go on runs. Well, they went on a 7-0 run to end the half, and now they've outscored George Mason 9-2 to start this half.
Cooper Flagg has outscored George Mason in this half by himself. Patriots looking for some kind of offense.
Again, Duke's pressure on the ball has been very impressive.
And their length has clearly been disruptive. Phillips back out to Maddox, scoreless to start the second half, had 7 in the first. Newton, and another contested 3 off the mark. Now O'Connor. Dribble pull-up, no. Putback is good by Newton, but they're going to wave the basket off and say there was a foul on Duke first. And that is number 2 on Cooper Flagg.
Well, this is a situation where Flagg shoves Haynes in the back, and that occurs before there's any shooting going on by George Mason. George Mason could have used that basket. I am extremely impressed with the way Malawach is playing defense inside. His help defense has really created issues.
Oh, that's a really strong take by Haynes. Slaps the floor on his way back. Proctor. Malawach fighting for the offensive
what
board.
A pass.
And Flagg draws a foul. They need more of this from Jalen Haynes and company. Going into the teeth of the 7'2", 250-pound freshman. Flipping it up and in. George Mason down 16. The team has scored the ball particularly efficiently tonight, but let's give some credit to the Duke defense, who yet again tonight, Dan, has been exceptional on that side of the floor.
Coming into the game 5th in Division I out of 353 schools in scoring defense, and boy, they've been really solid tonight.
Cooper Flagg at the line for 2 shots. I thought it was interesting with as good as the Duke defense has been, and the rankings show that. Jon Scheyer believes there's another level to it that his team can get to.
Again,
15 for Flagg. They lead by 18.
He's got veteran guys in the transfer portal. He's got new guys otherwise, and he's trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Maddox to Billups. And George Mason, who's shooting 35% from distance this year, now just 1 for 11 tonight.
Yeah, but Billups hadn't made a 3 all year.
Flagg lost it, but was bumped by Billups. And that is number 2 on the second-year transfer from Siena.
O'Connor and Newton and Anderson are the 3 best percentage three-point shooters on the team, and they've only taken 5 of those threes.
And none of them have made a 3 out of those 5 attempts.
He's
5 seconds. Flagg in the lane. Knipple trying to win it back, and he will. Johnson lost it out of bounds. Great effort again by Kon Knipple.
You don't get very highly rated in defensive stats unless you play hard. And Knipple plays hard, and that was just a really smart play.
Cross swing.
One of 3 Duke freshmen projected to go in the top 10 in this year's NBA draft, as Brown finishes that beautiful play with a dunk.
You come and you try to take 2 guys, double team Flagg. That's what happens. He's a great passer.
First point of the night for the Syracuse transfer gives Duke a 20-point lead. And Haynes gets tied up with Brown and sells the foul.
Haynes steps toward Flagg. Nobody helps out. And again, Brown is a guy who just knows how to play. He finds the open spots, and Flagg finds him.
Into Maddox. First points of the half for the leading scorer, Darius Maddox.
What did Tony Skinn tell us this afternoon? Maddox is going to have a big game, and unfortunately for George Mason, nobody's really had a big game.
10 to shoot for Proctor. Picked off by O'Connor. 3-on-2. Haynes, right place, right time, puts it in, and now he's grabbing his calf.
He is a demonstrative guy.
Maybe cramping up a little bit as he hobbles to the end of the bench. After that putback, 8 points for Jalen Haynes.
Well, Haynes, I mean, he's in great position. As he comes down, immediately he grabs that calf. And that, you're right, that's got to be a cramp.
He is being stretched out at the end of the George Mason bench. And so in his place, Giovanni Amajuru comes in for George Mason.
And George Mason, for the first time tonight, drops back into his zone. And again, they've only given up 40 points here, and we're almost midway through the second half. Their problem is they haven't been able to put the ball in the basket.
Maddox. Tony Skinn thought there should have been a foul. Billups drives right past Gilliffs for 2.
And we have seen that very few times tonight, but George Mason is very good going toward the goal. And I think John Shire was a little bit irritated that he saw that.
6-0 George Mason run. We'll be back in 30 seconds from Cameron Indoor.
Here at Once Upon a Farm, we chose the Capital One Venture X business card. With no preset spending limit, our purchasing power adapts to meet our business needs. And unlimited double miles means we earn more too. What's in your wallet?
Tap into the game and your people. Tap into an entire world of sports.
A little mini spurt here for the Patriots of George Mason, draws them back to within 14 points. And one of the things they haven't been able to do is get to the lane, get down the lane, and that was a nice job by Amajuru screening off Brown so he couldn't help out. But for the most part, Duke has done a really nice job staying in front of dribblers and denying that dribble penetration.
Tony Skinn still working the officials, thought there should have been a foul on the drive. Nonetheless, that play resulting in points. And a 6-0 run for George Mason, their largest run of the game.
Right, and again, points have been very hard to come by for the Patriots.
Out of the Duke timeout, Tyrese Proctor with a basketball.
George Mason matching up now.
Flag with 5. Oh, there's Flag with the steal and draws a foul on Darius Maddox.
Now, Maddox had no idea that Flag was there. And that's a really tough pass by O'Connor. You don't want to throw the ball into trouble. Maddox has no idea that Flag's there, but O'Connor could see him. You don't make that pass.
4 team fouls on George Mason. Still playing without Jalen Haynes, who did just return to the end of the George Mason bench.
And they're only down by 14. I mean, it's not like it's a 34-point game. They still, if they can get another little run going, they can get right back in this thing.
Foster stepped out of bounds, and we'll give it back to the Patriots.
Getting stops hasn't been the problem. Scoring baskets has been.
Yeah, they've held Duke to 33% from the field, less than 30% from beyond the arc. Duke has scored 12 points off turnovers. And they're +5 in the fast break. Ten to shoot. O'Connor with 5. Well defended by Knipple, and just had to throw it up there off the mark.
Knipple's size, I think, really bothering O'Connor.
Watch out for Gillis. And here comes Katie Johnson.
Tried to sneak it through to Maddox.
9 turnovers on the Patriots, and they're going to win it right back. Not a whole lot of scoring in that last sequence. We will step aside from Cameron Indoor. Duke on top, 40-26. Well, coming up the Sunday after Christmas, a huge quadruple header slate in the ACC women's hoops, starting at noon with Virginia at Notre Dame. What a season Notre Dame has put together. North Carolina back at it against the U, and we round it out with number 21 NC State taking on Clemson at 6 p.m. Eastern, all on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. Meanwhile, back here at Cameron Indoor, still a 6-0 George Mason run over the last 3.5 minutes. Down 14. Darius Maddox with the basketball.
You just can't be pounding the ball. You've got to move and pass, because Duke's pressure on the ball has just been dominated.
Jalen Haynes back on the floor for George Mason with 8 points after suffering what appeared to be some cramping in his calf. 10 to shoot for the Patriots. Maddox draws a double, and it's picked off by Foster. Gillis open 3.
Duke continues to struggle from out there. They've missed some wide open threes.
Speaking of, Anderson, typically a very good three-point shooter, missing wide open, and now George Mason 1 for 13, but they will keep the ball.
Anderson comes in at 50% from beyond the arc, and like 90% of both his shots and his makes are three-pointers. That's what he's in there to do, but he just hadn't been able to find the range tonight. Uh-oh.
Anderson fouled by Gillis. All kinds of bodies on the floor. That is the first on the Purdue transfer, and the 4th on the Blue Devils.
And the fouling situation has been a factor in this game. This is just a loose ball here until Gillis gives him the hip, sends him on the other side of half court. Contact that results in a disadvantage to the defensive play, to your opponent, and advantage to you is a foul, and that was a pretty good hip check. Maddox just hadn't been able to get open.
Haynes against Malawach with 10.
Duke brought a double, but then the double backed off, and Haynes was able to step through it. If he can get to that left hand, he can get it over Malawach. He's had a problem getting it over him with his right hand.
Nearly a 5-minute scoring drought for the Blue Devils. Proctor almost lost it across half court. Less than 10 to shoot. Flag. Jarred loose. Johnson wins it back. Maddox. Helter Skelter being tracked down by Flag. And now Knipple. Doubled. And there's a whistle on Billups, and he doesn't like it. And neither does Jalen Haynes.
I think they called it on Haynes.
If it's on Haynes, that's his 3rd.
It is on Haynes.
And the 5th team foul on the Patriots.
Now on the offensive end, Haynes, this is the first time he's been able to get steps right through on James. James stepped away from that double team, and on defense, he gets right up, and look at his lower body going right into Colin Knipple. That's what's called a cylinder foul, and you have this imaginary cylinder around you, that protects your personal space, if you will. And you can't make contact like that in the cylinder.
Meanwhile, during that last replay, another foul on George Mason against Zach Anderson. That's his third. And now Haynes will go to the bench with those 3 fouls. One more, and Duke is in the bonus the rest of the way.
Remember, we started out saying how important free throws were to George Mason, and they've only attempted 3 in this game.
Picked off by O'Connor. Tippy towing the sideline. Thunderous by Cooper Flagg. 17 for Duke's leading scorer.
That's why you don't throw the ball in under the basket like that unless you know exactly who you're throwing it to. Better to just carry that one out of bounds and make Duke run an out of bounds underneath play. This is a really tough pass. He makes a nice play and just, you know, he never saw Sion James, but you got to give James some credit there too. Stepping back in, not giving up on the play.
12 Duke points on 10 George Mason turnovers. And it's back to a 14-point lead for the number 5 team in the country. Anderson with 2. Rebound Emejuru. Good luck against Malawach. It'll stay here with 14 on the timer, but there is very little room to get around the 7'2" freshman.
Well, Emejuru is 6'11" and weighs 265 pounds, and in the A10 he's going to force his way around and through a lot of people, but Malawach is not only 7'2", he weighs 250 pounds.
Under 10 to shoot. O'Connor trying to wiggle free. Fadeaway jumper won't go, and Malawach the rebound. Sion James, spin cycle rejected, but a foul. And that will put Duke into the bonus for the final 8 minutes and change of regulation.
James does a really nice job attacking off the dribble here, and that foul was called on O'Connor, I think. Nice job by Billups coming over to help. But O'Connor has really struggled today, and he's been a key factor in this 5-game winning streak for George Mason, and Duke has just done a great defensive job against him. They've made him uncomfortable all night long.
Well, ACC PM with Mark Packer, Taylor Tannenbaum, weekdays 4 Eastern right here on the ACC Network and the ESPN app. Every day during the week. By the way, George Mason foul trouble becoming a real problem. O'Connor now with 3, Anderson with 3, Haynes remains on the bench with 3. Meanwhile, the Patriots 1 for their last 7 offensively. James for 3. Johnson. And George Mason now 1 for 14 from distance as Emejuru puts the offensive rebound back.
He overpowered Malik Brown that time. Brown not quite the bulk of Malawach.
Evans left open. Cashes in from downtown.
That's what he is in there to do. And I mean, he catches it ready to go.
Hit 4 threes in the second half against Incarnate Word last week. And that was last touch by Malik Brown. Duke maintaining a 17-point lead, finding points when they need them, in control.
Gator.
Now, how did Evans get so open for that three-point basket? Well, let's start here and look at Malik Brown. He's going to set the screen. And now watch what happens here, because Brown is coming back. He's going to set another screen. But the big thing that happens here is you have going this way and then going this way. The offensive player Proctor goes and he takes the defender with him, so it clears out the side. So you have the screen. There is nobody over there. And when you talk about a guy who catches the ball ready to shoot, that is a perfect definition of our friend Isaiah Evans.
And finally, we get to break out the telly tonight. Meanwhile, George Mason trailing by 17. Haynes kept it alive. And now Haynes with 12.
Haynes is pretty good on his feet, you know, for a guy that's
like a dancing bear. 6'8", 265. It's like a D lineman.
He plays hard. He plays with an awful lot of emotion and enthusiasm.
Uh-oh. Flag off the mark. Rebound Brown. Kick out to Evans. That's a three.
What a great job by Brown to turn around and find Evans. You know, a lot of times what we said earlier, it's not shooting the three, but who's shooting the three, and you can feel really confident with Evans out there.
Haynes defended by Brown. Goes right past him and lays it in.
Brown didn't get any help that time. Cooper Kupp was in position and didn't finish the play. Of course, you're ahead by 16 points. There's no reason to get involved with that guy coming at you, Haynes.
Skip pass to Proctor. James off the bounce. Counted in the foul.
Haynes makes a mistake going out to attack on this particular play. He runs out at Sion James, and there's just no way that he's going to be able to defend him. I mean, he's way beyond the three-point line. If James is going to shoot a three out there, you let him shoot the three. You don't run out at him and let him drive right by you.
Malawach will keep it here. And the offensive rebounding for Duke tonight has been spectacular.
Well,
and that is number 4 on Haynes.
I mean, it's hard to block these guys out because they're constantly moving. So now wait a minute. They're trying to figure out Malawach going to the free throw line.
And a little bit of a grin there from Cooper Flagg.
Well, Flagg, you know, if you get a chance to go to the free throw line, you go ahead. Malawach, though, he came in. He missed both of his free throws today, but he was 13 for 16 coming in.
1-and-1 here. As Haynes went to the bench with 4 fouls. He's really been their only offense. So how long do you keep him on the bench?
Well, at this point, you know, unless you're going to make a big run, there's no reason to put him back in the game. And we've seen no evidence that George Mason is going to mount anything like that.
Down 20. Added to a 4-point game with 4.5 minutes to go in the first half. And then Duke went on a 16-2 run. Nice take there by Woody Newton. Fouled by Malawach. Number 2 on the big fella from South Sudan.
And remember what we said at the start of the game, that George Mason gets 24% of their points from the free throw line, but for the most part, Duke has been able to cut off those drives to the basket into the lane. This is only the 4th free throw attempt of the game, so it's 4 points from the free throw line. Excuse me.
No, you're right. 4 points from the foul line tonight for George Mason out of their 37. That has not been their recipe for success. Malawach tipping it into the hands of KD Johnson. That's a tough take by Johnson, the Auburn transfer.
And again, if those are the kind of shots that you're going to get, it's going to be hard to make a high percentage of them. That's a really good play by KD Johnson, but you just don't want to have to make shots that tough all the time. Here's the zone again. They match up very quickly, though.
Flag, nifty, has 19.
He's just so smooth, Flag is, going to the basket.
And it seems every night he's flirting with a double-double. Already 4 this season, is 2 rebounds away from his 5th. And there's a foul on the floor after the miss by KD Johnson, and that will take us to our final media timeout in Cameron Indoor. ACC men's basketball is presented by T. Rowe Price. Invest with confidence.
Gatorade.
Well, the outcome was not always in question tonight for Jon Scheyer's team, despite the 56-39 lead with less than 4 minutes to go. At one point, they were in a 4-point battle with 4.5 minutes left in the first half, but they have just gritted and fought their way to extend the lead and keep it.
And I think gritty is exactly the word to describe it. And that's what Jon Scheyer said to us earlier today, that he thinks his team has just sort of toughed it out on offense, that they haven't been really smooth, and that's what we've seen tonight. But their defense has been outstanding, and in particular, I think Tyrese Proctor's pressure on the ball has really cut off the point of attack.
Flag wins it back, then draws a foul, and 1-and-1 coming. Check that. That's going to be the 10th foul. 2 shots coming for Cooper Flag. And the second on Woody Newton.
Newton, he thought he had a path, and he just missed the ball, and he got his arm tangled up with Flag. Flag is everywhere.
All the time. Well, Saturday, ACC basketball returns to the ACC Network and the ESPN app as Cooper Flag leads Duke to Georgia Tech. And then our primetime West Coast matchup, Cal squares off against number 23 San Diego State. And for Duke, tonight marks the end of the non-conference slate. Georgia Tech will begin their conference play in earnest. And Dan, they enter conference play having had a very successful non-conference slate, including 2 wins against top 25 teams.
And they played a really tough non-conference slate. Those top 25 teams, they played 4 games against powerhouses, and they split them.
That January 7th game here at Cameron Indoor on ESPN against Pitt is a game that I'm certainly intrigued to see. Evans, his 3rd triple of the half.
Better find him.
Malawach with the eraser. And Maddox hits his first 3 of the game and the first of the half for George Mason.
It's just really been a struggle for George Mason. Everything has been contested. Even that time, Flag was flying at him.
They hit a few more of those in the first half, and to start the second frame, this is probably a different game. But Duke made everything tough tonight. Evans again. What do you think about this Duke team? Are they clearly the favorite entering ACC play in your mind still after the first 2 months?
I think there's no question about that. I think that the surprise to me in the non-conference portion of the schedule at the top of the ACC is that it appears that Pitt and Clemson are right behind Duke when everybody thought it would be North Carolina. And that North Carolina still you know, they've got a really good team. They've struggled a little bit in the non-conference portion of the schedule, but now they'll have a chance to get rolling in a very tough game against Florida tonight.
Currently leading that game 81-79 with less than 3 minutes to go. That would be a huge win, not just for Carolina, but the conference as we move into ACC play.
But that's, I think everybody thought Duke was going to be the best team, and I think that right at this point in time that they are. As I watch this Duke team so far, the thing that has impressed me more than anything else is their defensive play tonight. John Shire told us that he still didn't think they were as effective on offense as they need to be, as he hopes they will be, and I think that's a tremendous assessment. That you can see that tonight. I mean, Flagg comes in on the season shooting only 22% from beyond the arc. He makes that one, and so now he's 2 for 5 on the night, and you just expect that he'll shoot the 3 better as the season goes on.
24 for Cooper Flagg. Haynes sent away by Malawach. We'll go back at him. Oh, that's a nifty take with the right hand.
Well, we talked about the fact that Haynes can score with both hands, but that's the first time he's been able to get it up over Malawach with the right hand tonight. But how hard was that to score inside?
Brutally hard.
And if you have to work that hard to score, you're not going to score a lot of points, and that's what we have seen tonight for George Mason. I mean, they have played hard. This is a team that if they can just, I mean, they're really good defensively. If they can just get some scoring, got to be a little bit more careful with the basketball. They turn it over a little too much. But of course, a lot of people turn it over playing in here.
Flagg inside to Malawach. Fouled by Newton.
Flagg threw it up there where nobody else could get it except Malawach, and Malawach didn't bring it down.
Well, we've got SMU and Clemson covered for their college football playoff first-round games. It all starts Friday, 4 Eastern, with our special ACC PM preview show, and continues Saturday, both pre- and post-game. First season of the 12-team playoff, 2 teams from the ACC in it. And now Cooper Flagg will exit the game to a standing ovation after his 5th 20-point performance of the season.
He's got 24 points, he's got 9 rebounds, he's got 4 assists, he's got 3 steals, and he's got a blocked shot. Not a bad evening.
Another day at the office for the 17-year-old Cooper Flagg. Final minute of action here at Cameron Indoor. Duke will snap George Mason's 5-game win streak and take a 5-game win streak of their own into conference play, taking on Georgia Tech in Atlanta on Saturday.
This is an interesting play.
To say the least. Malawach on the drive draws a foul. And another trip to the foul line for the Blue Devils.
Malawach, that's probably the most he's...
A force in the A-10, picked 6th in the preseason poll.
When you're talking about conference play coming up, the A-10, their teams have had outstanding non-conference season. Rhode Island and St. Bonaventure and Davidson, George Mason.
Dayton beating 2 top
absolutely.
20 Big East teams. Very possible that come March, the A-10 is a multi-bid league. George Mason hopes to be in that conversation, but tonight, too much difficulty scoring the basketball against one of the top defenses in the country, and Duke will win their 5th straight. And now, Dan, we turn our attention to the ACC slate for the Blue Devils.
And again, Jon Scheyer, he's very happy, I'm sure, with his defensive performance tonight. They were much better offensively in the second half, and I think the Duke needs to continue to improve offensively to get to where they want to go.
They win at 68-47 at home. Jon Scheyer improves to 9-2. For Dan Bonner, our entire ACC Network crew, I'm Matt Schumacher saying so long from Durham as we send you to Taylor Tannenbaum, Luke Hancock, and Seth Greenberg in the studio.